Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us. We've got quite a few people still coming in. We had a good amount of folks register, and we still got some attendees joining. We'll give them another minute or so, and then we'll get started. All right, let's go ahead and get going. Once again, thanks everybody for joining, and give you a quick introduction of who we've got on the panel today. My name is Kevin Smith. I'm the Vice President of Marketing here at EnablePath. I also head up the sales engineering team, and one of my senior folks, Mark Patterson, is on today as well. He's going to be taking us through a demo as a webinar presenter. Mark holds quite a few certifications, and Michelle Hunter, our Director of Marketing, does all of our part work, and she's facilitating our webinar today. Thanks for joining. Some of you coming back, I'm looking through the names in the registration and the attendee list, see some customers, see some Salesforce partners, see some ISV partners, some folks that have been with us before, see some Pathfinders, EnablePath employees, glad to have them as well. For anybody that doesn't know us, if this is your first webinar with us, EnablePath is a platinum partner with Salesforce.com. We're an service implementation partner. We do initial deployments, we do optimizations, integrations, managed services, ongoing support. And we've got 100+ resources here in the US holding almost 300 now total Salesforce certifications. So we're a good-sized company. We work mostly in the mid-market space. We do some enterprise work, but mostly in the mid-market space. We focus in manufacturing, vertical, health and life science, destination marketing and travel, and we do a lot of general business services, the majority of that down in the Southeast US. So just a quick, not meant to be an ad, but just so you know who's putting on the show here. So the purpose and agenda for today, we run these webinar series. We really strive to provide some added value to clients and partners in the Salesforce ecosystem, and we try to do that through the curation and interpretation of public information. So just kind of as a disclaimer, you're not going to hear anything here that is not public information already, other than we do render opinion at certain times on certain functionalities in Salesforce. One of the things that we've done that has been pretty popular and we've gotten good feedback on is presenting use cases, potential ways to use items that have come out in releases, highlighting some things that we think, and this was actually a request, we've added a section to the webinar series, highlighting some news from the ecosystem that matters. There's a lot of news in the ecosystem and a lot of things that happen. We're going to highlight today some of the items that have happened in the first half of Salesforce's year that have really expanded some capabilities of the platform, just to keep everybody aware of kind of what Salesforce has brought to us. Again, as a disclaimer, all this information is public information. You're not going to hear anything that isn't already out there in the public domain. You will hear some opinions from us. They are not Salesforce's opinions. They are our opinions that we'll be talking through today. So we'll go through some Salesforce news highlights from the first half of the year. Mark Patterson's going to take us through some highlights of the Summer 16 release. There's a lot of stuff that comes out every release. We try to distill it down to those items that we think may have the most impact, but we certainly, encourage everybody to go through release notes, go through the trailheads, stay current on releases and on the functionality, join the success community, talk about the release. There's just so much information available out there. So our purpose is to kind of filter that and present what we think is most salient. Mark's also going to take us through a use case demonstration. He's got a demo org that he's going to pull up, show us a couple of the new release functionalities in action. And then I'm going to spend just a quick minute on Lightning update, try to talk a little bit about, Lightning's really become very comprehensive, includes quite a bit. There's been a couple changes in the last couple months a couple new release items that have come up, and some changes in licensing that we'll go over as well. So hopefully that's what everybody signed up for when they signed up, and we'll jump right into it. So some recent news we're going to go over, and you could pop that next slide there, Mark, if you would. Thanks. So Salesforce acquired SteelBrick. We're going to talk about that and the implication of that, and that happened earlier, and really it's been accelerated, the integration of that. It's quality integration. They're really moving forward quickly with that. So we'll talk about some of the impact there. Salesforce also launched Field Service Lightning. So we're going to spend a minute on that and what that impact may be, what capabilities now are available and will be coming available potentially. And we'll talk about kind of where it fits in the ecosystem. And then most recently, Salesforce acquires DemandWhere. And we're going to spend a couple minutes on that because that's a new foray for Salesforce into some different space. And, you know, it really, while it didn't have a whole lot of functional impact yet, it really is quite a big move for Salesforce. So we'll start off with the SteelBrick one and the acquisition of SteelBrick. So SteelBrick bolstered, or Salesforce rather, bolstered their CPQ functionality with this acquisition of SteelBrick. And the SteelBrick name has already been integrated and consumed or assimilated into Salesforce. The SteelBrick name doesn't exist really any longer. It's now Salesforce CPQ. So what is CPQ? CPQ is configuration, pricing, and quoting tools and technologies. It's product and pricing rules engines, and right now it's an add-on feature to Sales Cloud. So CPQ is kind of a general term for the technologies that allow companies to really systematically define product pricing, bundling, discounting, recurring revenue, renewal, functionality in opportunities. So some of the benefits that we'll see from that, one of the biggest ones that folks see when they deploy CPQ technology is increased client and probably as importantly in some situations, user satisfaction through faster response. So a lot of companies that have more complex products, that are quoting more complex products, that have more complex bundling, you know, and probably some of the folks on the phone today have, they might have a deals desk. They might have some folks in product marketing that control what can be bundled. They might have some manual approval routing and approval processes to say, hey, you know, can we provide this discount? We want to provide, an example might be a 5-year discount on a 3-year agreement. And that's got to go through some internal processes. So having a CPQ engine, a rules engine, really can increase the speed with which a salesperson and potentially even an end user, a consumer through a community, can self-service and can configure their own product set. It also provides improved control for marketing because they can establish these rules, and instead of there being a whole lot of exceptions, they can really zero in on the very few and control the rule sets. A frequent use case are features that can't be combined with certain products and can be combined with others, and being able to establish good rule sets in and around that, quite enhanced from the typical product and price book that you've been working with in Sales Cloud, give marketing a lot more control. And one ancillary benefit is a lot of times it'll decrease revenue leakage. So you don't have a salesperson that makes a mistake, over discounts something, does not bill for a specific item, leaves a recurring revenue charge off, and you've got revenue leakage. And it really just decreases human error. You know, we put more in the system and less in the hands of humans. So the SteelBrick acquisition was a great one, and it fits really well. And why it fits so well in Salesforce is the application is a native Salesforce build. It was purpose-built. It was an independent software vendor, partner in the ecosystem, that had built the functionality. And they had built it specifically for the mid-market. So there's some other CPQ. There's other CPQ programs out there, other ones that EnablePath has a CPQ practice, and there's other platforms that we work with, Aptus being one of the big ones. But most of the other applications for CPQ were very bulky, very large builds, quite expensive, and the SteelBrick model just really fit that mid-market. So it fit quite well for Salesforce and fits quite well for EnablePath and fit quite well into our CPQ practice. And then for Salesforce, it really rounds out the Sales Cloud. You know, that's one of the few areas. Sales Cloud has just been an awesome application since its launch, since its inception. but it lacked a little bit of that CPQ, so it rounds that out quite nicely. So all in all, I think it's a great acquisition by Salesforce. I think they're doing a great job with it, and it's going to have some effect on us all in the ecosystem. Partners, are going to need to get trained and stay trained. Salesforce, as they always do, will continue to advance the technology. Fortunately for us, for EnablePath, we've been able to make an investment and get quite a few people trained and really bolster our CPQ practice already. We've got quite a few projects running right now. And other partners, as always, we encourage you to do so. Clients, really should examine the functionality and define potential ROI for your unique use case. CPQ can drive a lot of value. It is an added cost. There is some added effort. But take a look at your specific use case and see if there are opportunities for you to drive ROI from the technology. And certainly, we're more than happy, kind of a shameless plug, I guess, but we're also more than happy to take a look at it. And it doesn't have to be always in a paid engagement. Reach out to your support manager, to Pam Bryan if you're in our managed service program, or reach out to your account executive if you're not, or ping me. Happy to have a discussion in and around it. We also have a practice lead, John Helena, who'd be happy to discuss it with you. So all in all, it's fitting in nicely, and it's a great acquisition. And then right on the heels of that, Salesforce made their next announcements, which was the launch of Field Service Lightning. Field Service Lightning really mobilizes the Service Cloud and streamlines operations. Field Service Lightning is basically, it's a field workforce communication and management app. It had been in place a while. It had been being built for a while, so it's fairly well baked. There's quite a bit in there, and I encourage you guys to go take a look at some of the demos that are out there, some of the films that Salesforce has on hand. It's got good intelligent routing and scheduling engine in there. That's kind of a good purpose for it, and it really puts a lot in the field technician's hands and in the dispatcher's hands. Right now, Field Service Lightning is still a Service Cloud add-on, so it's an additional charge. It can be purchased on an enterprise or above license if anybody is interested in it. Some of the cool capabilities coming out of Field Service Lightning, you can create work orders from any object. So you can create a work order directly from a case. You can create a work order directly from an opportunity, in the case of potentially a sale that requires an installation. You can create a work order from an asset. So if you had something like scheduled maintenance that you needed to do, you could auto-create the work object from an asset, or the work order rather, from an asset object. So it's pretty cool functionality. It's got good ability to manage complex field assets. Think maybe in the manufacturing world, production machines on the floor. In the software world, servers that are going to need some specific, that are deployed and are going to need some specific servicing. You can schedule and dispatch field techs directly from the system. So some of the companies we've worked with in the past with Service Cloud have had other add-ons or have had custom-built modules for dispatch, routing, scheduling. They really may want to consider pulling those in. And one of the greatest things, it provides the field techs with a 360-degree view, not just of the work order, but they can see the client, they can see the chain of communications coming up to them being dispatched. So they've got good perspective when they arrive on site with the client, and that drives that feeling of personalized service to a higher level. The folks that are going to benefit most right now are technicians and dispatchers. A lot of other folks, if they already had Service Cloud, have a lot of the functionality, but the technicians and dispatchers are gonna gain quite a bit. And then any companies out there that provide SLAs to their end users, right, to their customers, if you've got response time SLAs in place, manufacturing organizations, medical manufacturing devices that have SLAs for downtime service, elevator companies that provide SLAs, response time SLAs to their clients. Field Service Lightning has a great monitoring tool built right into it. So those companies could benefit quite a bit. And again, this will have effect on all of us, on partners, on clients. And this one I think is going to have an effect on the ecosystem, or maybe is more of an indication of an effect that we've been seeing in the ecosystem. And that's this continued convergence of sales and service. The days where it was okay for the service person not to have a lot of information about me as a customer, or the days of a salesperson not having to know what was going on in service. I mean, those days are behind us and are going to continue to be behind us. You know, consumers now, any consumer, not just a B2B company or a B2B client or a B2C consumer, they're so used to having so much information that if they interact with somebody who doesn't have information they believe they should, it can be a frustrating service event. So we're continuing to see this convergence of sales and service. And I think Field Service Lightning helps a lot with that by putting all of the sales information right there in the field tech's hands when they're on site. SI partners, again, are going to need to get and stay trained on this. Salesforce has a couple classes out there. Being a platinum partner, we were able to get a few of our resources in there, so we're kind of on the front of this wave and ready for it. Any partners on the phone, you know, I'd encourage you, if you do have an opportunity, you know, to get some training, do so. It's a fairly big application. It's going to take a little while to get up to speed. We're anxious to get running on it. And then again, if you're on the client side, if you're a company using Salesforce, you know, take a look at the functionality, make sure, understand the costs, define the ROI potential for your specific use case, and weigh out the pros and cons of it. It's certainly an outstanding application. Does still come at a little bit of an extra cost, but it really could streamline processes. So field service is fairly baked. If we have time at the end, if anybody's got questions on that, we can talk a little bit about what we've seen. It was pre-built, and Salesforce kind of licensed some of that use, or licensed the intellectual property, bought the intellectual property, and spun it up pretty quickly. So it's fairly baked, and they're working rapidly on it. So I think we'll probably hear a lot about this one at Dreamforce this year. And then the last big piece we're going to talk about was the most recent acquisition that Salesforce made, and that was the purchase of DemandWhere. DemandWhere is a B2C digital commerce platform, mostly used in high B2C, you know, e-purchasing and e-commerce websites. It's a predictive intelligence engine that enables the personalization of content and messaging. In our world, this happens when we're on Amazon and it says other items you might like. Similar consumers also bought, and it's not modeling only off me or off a product line. It's modeling off behaviors in a big data environment, in a predictive environment. The other thing that DemandWhere is, and I think it's worth noting, it's Salesforce's largest acquisition to date. So Salesforce bought, I mean, this was a huge investment, and obviously a massive investment for them in reaching into and establishing a foothold in a space where they've not traditionally had a lot of traction. So this B2C world and this e-commerce world, obviously Salesforce is going to go full speed into it, as indicated by, again, their largest acquisition to date. And you'll see it. This is the foundation for the new Commerce Cloud, and that's what we'll hear about and how we'll hear about it going forward. The DemandWhere name will be assimilated in, and you'll hear of Commerce Cloud, and that's the e-commerce platform that'll be driving, that Salesforce will be driving. And again, I'm sure we're going to hear quite a bit about this at Dreamforce. The common use cases, as I mentioned, are behind the scenes B2C e-commerce intelligence. This will start to blend, I think, going forward, and we'll talk about that just in a second. You know, I really see the lines kind of blurring between B2B and B2C functionality. As more B2B buyers are digital natives and used to purchasing and interacting in an e-commerce platform, I think you'll start to see companies that use what would traditionally be B2C type applications and software to address B2B needs. So clients that could benefit from it right now, clients with communities that enable ordering, you know, potentially manufacturing clients with partner communities where you're enable ordering, customer communities that are enabling ordering or access to content, you know, in the case of, you know, educational publishing organizations could see some benefit from this down the road. And anyone that's on the call right now, or that you guys interact with, that's considering a future deployment or optimization of their e-commerce platform, if they have an e-commerce platform and they need to update it, or if they're considering one, it probably merits some thought, especially if they're already using Salesforce, if they've already got Sales Cloud, or if they've already got Service Cloud for that matter. Looking at the Commerce Cloud and watching its progression over the next few months, I think would probably be good advice. And then the effect on the partners in the ecosystem, again, it's going to continue to blur the lines, I think, between B2B and B2C functionality. I think Salesforce is prepping for that. I know we are, as an organization, starting to see that and reacting to it as we support our clients. And then it's also going to affect the ecosystem with continued Salesforce growth. I mean, think of all the ISV partners that have built in and around Sales Cloud, have built in and around Service Cloud, have built in and around Marketing Cloud, and now as Commerce Cloud launches, it's not just that an implementation partner like EnablePath will be able to interact with clients and assist them in leveraging ROI out of it, but all the separate developers. And I just think it's really positive for the ecosystem, and it's positive to see that continued Salesforce growth. So there's been quite a bit that's gone on at the beginning of the year. Those are just a couple of the highlights we thought we'd run through. We're going to kick it over now to Mark Patterson. Mark's going to take us through some of the highlights of the Summer 16 release, and then through a quick demo. And then as time allows, we'll hop back and talk a little bit about a Lightning update. Marco, go ahead.
Great, thanks, Kevin. Yeah, and so just wanted to kind of hit a number of the highlights of the Summer 16 release. There's an awful lot in Summer 16, and the release notes are hundreds of pages. But we decided we want to walk through and kind of look at a few things that kind of hit our eye and we thought would be worth talking about. As Kevin mentioned, there's a blurring between B2C and B2B, and we're seeing that in social media. About a year ago, Salesforce released a social customer service functionality, which is really kind of an extension of the Radiant 6 and other Social Studio pieces that allows you to kind of apply that to the Service Cloud and to services. So you can engage your customers using Twitter and Facebook and other social media. In Summer 16, they added the ability for you to invite your customers into a direct messaging relationship, a DM relationship with you via Twitter. So you can reach out from within Salesforce. If you look at a customer's having an issue with one of your products on Twitter, reach out to them, invite them to a DM session, and then be able to engage your customer using DM without having to resort to other means. Much more immediate, much more direct. One of the benefits is that you are engaging directly with the customer, and when you go into a DM relationship, it kind of removes that 140 character limitation. And so it's it's a nice added functionality for Summer 16. Salesforce is doing this with the Ask Force Twitter handle. So if you wanted to try that out, you can sort of see how that works with that Twitter handle. In addition, in Summer 16, Salesforce gives you the capability of releasing a survey via Twitter, so that you can just push the survey out through Twitter, get the response, and see what those are. So it's kind of a nice enhancement as well. On Omnichannel, Salesforce again released Omnichannel a couple of releases ago, and that's a way to kind of push a process around instead of being kind of a pull method from queues. Omnichannel allows you to take work items and distribute them to the proper person to handle that particular work item. And a work item in Salesforce can be anything from a case, an order, a lead, etc. Anything that can be queuable can be kind of driven by this Omnichannel functionality. One thing that in Summer 16 that was done was the ability to actually measure the interactions, measure the handle time from the time the work item was open. So, for example, if a lead came in and came in on, let's say, Monday, and then was closed or converted on maybe Tuesday, you can see the whole handle time being a day. And then you can also measure the amount of time an agent actually worked on that particular item. So between those two, it gives you an insight into how your customer service organization or how your team is working with those particular work items. In the community, Salesforce expanded the search capability for your members. So instead of just being able to search on, discussions or articles, you can also search across whatever objects they have access to. So, for example, in a partner community, the global search would reach into any of the, let's say, opportunities or accounts that they have visibility to. So it doesn't change their visibility, but it does allow to a deeper search if they're looking for information on the community. Additionally, for chatter answers and other posts, Salesforce put in place a pre-moderation capability. So instead of having any posts by your community automatically get posted, out for the world to see, you can put them into a pre-moderation queue to allow moderators to view them and then approve them or not, depending on the content. And you can, moderate them yourself, and you can determine who can be moderators on your community. So it's a nice add-on, adds a little bit of functionality to the community. And then, in addition, on the page visibility, the community before, if you had a page, on the community, anybody could see it in the same way. They've added some refinement to that, where you can show a different page based on the profile of your community member. So, for example, in a real estate situation, you could have, if you have members who are brokers versus clients, they could see a different page based on the fact that they're a broker versus a client. And that gives you some refinement as to how you structure your community. For web analytics, they put the ability to do annotations on dashboards. If you're working on a dashboard, figuring out what it's going to look like, or looking at the data on it, users can put annotations on a dashboard and making comments on it, suggestions, etc. So that's a nice add-on to be able to allow collaboration on dashboards. And also, if you're taking your web analytics reports and dashboards and showing them to your constituents, the presentation mode was added to make that easier. So if you're doing, for example, a quarterly board meeting, instead of having to do screenshots and things like that into a PowerPoint, you can just go ahead and go into presentation mode and show that information live. It's a nice add-on, a nice way to show data quickly and more accurately to your constituents. In addition, for the partners out there, Salesforce, you can now go ahead and package your Wave dashboards, et cetera, into a package on the App Exchange. And what that helps our clients is that there might be some metric sets that you may give insight into your industry that you can now look on the App Exchange and see, well, this is a particular set that's particular to, let's say, real estate or some other industry that has specific metrics and insights into data that would be on your own org. So that's a nice way to do that. It's basically similar to just packaging any application on Salesforce, what you're doing with a Wave application. For Lightning, the Lightning experience continues to evolve. It's a really interesting interface. It's definitely the direction Salesforce is going. They're demoing it. Each time we work with Salesforce, we're demoing it to our clients. We're using it. We're seeing it in various cases. And every release, it gets better and better. So and in this particular release, they added, among other things, they've added the ability to create a calendar on any object, and I'll show you that in a few minutes. Where you could take, let's say, for example, opportunities, and have the opportunity show up on your calendar, based on close date or other dates that you have within the object. It's a nice way to visualize and contextualize what you're doing. You can put, for example, case information on your calendar, or opportunity, or task, etc. And you can, looking at your calendar, you can see, where different objects are due, or when they started and finished, and things like that. It's a nice add-on. It's only available in the Lightning experience. The Lightning experience itself is still in flux. Every release, Salesforce makes changes to it. They're changing. In fact, even the next couple of releases, they'll be making some more pretty interesting changes to it. We're advising our customers to, take a look at that. You can certainly, get with us to help strategize when and if it makes sense to move to Lightning experience. I think that is definitely the interface of the future. And so it's a matter of looking at and seeing when is the right time to move. And you can work with Salesforce on that, or you can certainly engage with us and talk about, putting a plan together for, kind of a strategy together for how to move from the Classic experience over to Lightning. One thing I thought was interesting, and we thought was interesting, was Lightning Voice. It kind of was released in, just last month. It's just thrown out there, really. You said, here's Lightning Voice, and I was looking at this, and really what it is, it's like it's a telephony system from within Salesforce. So instead of using your own switches and your own phone, you can actually make calls directly outside of, through Salesforce. So it's integrated directly within Salesforce. You go to you go to your contact and click on the button. It'll pull up a, call. You can dial out from Salesforce using especially using Twilio for that. So it uses the cloud technology to make the phone calls. And then because it's already in Salesforce, it's automatically logged. It allows you to put your call notes directly within the record and save that into into your Sales Cloud or Service Cloud instance. Interesting add-on. You can also receive calls as well through Lightning Voice. It's supported with Lightning Enterprise and Professional editions, and for those clients who need it, it's worth looking at. I think it's one of those things where it can save you time and effort on trying to figure out how to connect your switches into Salesforce. It's out of box. It's been working, in different areas. It's a good thing. I think that's worth looking at. One thing for administrators out there and for developers that has been done was the ability to clone sandboxes. If as you go into doing more and more within Salesforce, especially for the larger organizations, you need to have some IT governance around how you manage your Salesforce instances, how you do development and go through the process of making changes and pushing those changes into production. And of course, sandboxes are a requirement for any Salesforce organization where you're kind of working with and doing changes. If you have more than a few users, you really even a small number of users, you want to develop in a sandbox and push into production. And so with Summer 16, this is a good change, the ability to clone a sandbox. What that is you take one of your, instead of creating a sandbox from your production org, you can clone a new sandbox from an existing sandbox. So for example, if you're doing a functionality release and you've gone through, you made the changes, you've been testing it with your users, everybody likes it, it's really ready to release, but it's not really the right time to release. Maybe it should be released at the end of the month or the end of the quarter, but it's ready to go. You could clone that sandbox, keep it in that particular state while you then go on to, on a new sandbox and make any additional fixes or changes that might go beyond that release. It gives you, it's like a nice thing to have in the tool set to be able to, add on to your change management strategy for how to, keep your Salesforce up to date. Make sure you're not disrupting your users and the production systems. So we thought that was pretty good. It allows you to do things like iterative development, go through, if you want to test something that's controversial or maybe a little bit iffy, you have a nicely well-tested sandbox, you push it over, you try something new. If it works, great, you go ahead and that's your new sandbox. If not, you can always roll back and use the original sandbox. There's a lot of things you can do with cloning of sandboxes. And of course, the big change is, for Summer 16, is being able to associate contacts with multiple accounts. That's something that's been requested in the pipeline for years. If you've done any Salesforce implementations, I've done a number of them. For certain clients, one of the first things you do is set up a way for contacts to be associated with multiple accounts in different ways, have different relationships. You start making new objects and things like that to support that. And now with Summer 16, that has been really made part of the standard Salesforce. It's a really nice add-on. It sort of takes and combines contact roles and the contact functionality into a really nicely blended way of keeping track of contacts and how they're associated with various accounts. And so you have basically two different types of relationships. You have your direct relationship, which is really what the current functionality is now, where you have a contact who works for, kind of implied to be working for an account, for a sales rep or VP or whatever. Then an indirect relationship, which is more similar to the contact role, where you're saying, this person's a broker. He's a mortgage broker, but he works for this particular retail company or realtor company, or he works with these particular clients. And you can define that relationship and show what that looks like, and it's all in one related list on the account. And I'll be showing that in a minute or two. the use cases are all over the place. I mean, like I just mentioned, real estate, we have brokers and clients and those relationships. And healthcare is a big one where you show the physician relationships to clinics and hospitals. So physician, of course, usually has his own, company or his own, independent. He usually works independently of any particular hospital. So you can show the relationship that he's a physician at a hospital, maybe a physician at a clinic. For travel, you can keep track of writer, freelance writer connections to publications. So he's a freelance writer, but you say, well, he's a writer for, Condé Nast or for some other other publications that are out there. To kind of keep track of those relationships. And of course, in financial services, there's numerous use cases. A person can be a board member on one company, an owner of another company, financial advisor, and investor. And so a lot of those are now really straightforwardly supported within with this, using the new functionality here. So with no further ado, I wanted to show that. Show a couple of things and demo that. Let me go ahead and change my screen here for a second. Oops, hold on. Okay, so you should be seeing my demo org here. I talked a few minutes ago about being able to create a calendar in any object in the Salesforce Lightning experience. This is the Salesforce Lightning experience on my demo org. And just to show you, basically, what I did was I put a case, I put cases on, opportunities, and tasks. In order to add a calendar to your Lightning experience, you just basically say new calendar. It's going to ask you which org you want to, which object you want to use. It could be anything. It could be contact even. When a new contact team in, or when they're due for a renewal, or something along those lines, or opportunities, or orders, etc. You choose it. You choose which date field you want to use as the start and end dates, and then it just shows up. So here we have it. For example, I have tasks here. A task has been completed. I have and opportunities and other tasks available next week. I just put a couple of sample data on here. A couple of tasks that are due on the 15th and 16th, and I have a close date over here for an opportunity. And of course, you click on it, it's like anything else, and you're going directly into that object. So it's a pretty nice capability, something that again works within the Lightning experience only, and worth definitely looking at when you start to roll out your Lightning experience. Now, I'll go ahead and show you. I'm going to go back to Salesforce Classic. And by the way, when you're working on it, if you had a chance to look at Classic versus the Lightning experience, but one thing to think about as you're rolling that out is you can always go back and forth and give your users the ability to go from Lightning experience to Salesforce Classic. There's still a lot of things that are only supported in the Salesforce Classic interface, and depending on again how you want to do that, you can certainly roll it out that way, where a person using on the exception side would go into Salesforce Classic to handle those particular activities. So something, again, you can talk to us about how to strategize doing that and when it makes sense to go forward with that. So I wanted to quickly do a demo of how this works with the accounts and contacts. Contacts being associated with multiple accounts. I put a couple of, obviously some basic, some data in here to work with. I have a situation, I have a sample. In this case, so you look at the healthcare side. We have a Pilot Butte Hospital. I'm over here in Oregon, so I'm using Oregon type stuff in Central Oregon. Obviously, this is Pilot Butte Hospital is a hospital. It's an account. We have on it. This is a new add-on here. We have related contacts. Instead of having a contact related list and also a contact role related list, you now have them combined into one. And you can see over here where you have, Simon Donaldson is a care director at the hospital. He's a direct relationship. He's an employee of the hospital. But you can still put a role in there, which is nice. So his role is operations. Now we have two associated physicians, Sam Jones and Frank Simmons. So in this particular case, Sam Jones is actually associated with his professional corporation, and Frank Simmons the same way. But in this particular case, they're associated with the hospital because they're physicians at that hospital. They're on call there. If I was to pop into Sam Jones as a contact, you can see that he's a direct relationship. He owns his own, professional corporation. He's also a physician in Health Mavens Clinic and, Pilot Butte Hospital. And if he needed, he was going to work with a new clinic, you can go in and do the association this way. So basically how this works is similar to, but a little better than I think the way contact roles were done before. If you go and say, diffuse dermatology, he's a physician there as well. We can add that relationship there. What's interesting too, this is actually a multi-select pick list, and you can choose more than one role. You don't have to be stuck with one role. And that makes sense. That's actually a good thing to do when you're looking at things like, the person is, in fact, let me save this real quick. I'll show what I'm talking about. So let's say you're selling into this doctor. You're trying to sell a particular new diagnostic device or whatever. You're going to be selling, the actual corporation will be the one that will actually be doing the buying rather than the doctor, him or herself. You could actually put in a situation where Dr. Jones is not just the owner, but also is a decision maker for that particular account. So now you're looking at the related accounts. You're seeing, oh, it's not just decision maker, also is the owner. And so you see that those roles, and you can imagine you could build that out a number of different ways. You can look at, for example, somebody who is an investor and on the board of an account. You can have both those roles associated with that person. So that's pretty good. This is good stuff. It's something you actually have to enable for your org. It is a definite change to how your org works. You certainly don't have to do the multiple accounts to contact, but it's something that you should be looking at, I think, and especially for those orgs that have done custom work in this area, those clients who've done custom work in that area, it's something to think about. Should you move to that, or should you keep what you got? You can certainly engage with us, talk to us or Salesforce about the best way to analyze that and come up with a strategy for how to move forward.
When I saw that come out in the release, Mark, I was excited because we've seen a lot of times where you get people putting in some junk data. They want to add a contact, but the contact already exists. You end up with dirty duplicates that aren't quite accurate. The same person represented by two different contacts records in the org because they wanted to do that association. So I was really excited for that as a tool to aid in data cleanliness. And then solving that physician relationship is a huge one. In healthcare, we run into that all the time, where he's the physician at the orthopedic place. He's also the referring person at the hospital, and potentially he's, as you mentioned, potentially he's a board member at another facility. So I was really excited about that one, and I appreciate you walking us through it.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah, it's actually, like I said, it's something that we've built out multiple times for different use cases, and it's done in different ways. And what this does, it allows us to do it in a standardized manner. There's actually some interesting things that are coming with the Health Cloud as well that kind of build on this. So a lot of exciting changes within the Salesforce world, and just how they're doing their relationships and building out those capabilities.
Excellent. Thanks, Marco.
So, yeah, and just to give you quickly, kind of some resources to look at on for summer 16. We have, we can send these off to you, but if you're looking at a new release, the first thing to look at usually is the release notes, but Salesforce has expanded upon that to give you things like a release video to show you the highlights of a new release coming up, the release preview document that does a similar thing with a quick and dirty type of PDF as opposed to going through the hundreds of pages of release notes. And then it actually relates to Trailhead for summer 16, which I did. It's actually quite nice. You walk through it, they test you on and show you new capabilities, and give you a badge for doing that. So that's nice, and I'm sure they'll be doing that for winter 17 as well. And then, of course, there's the Release Readiness and Feature Adoption Community, that Salesforce supports. And so if you have any questions or thoughts, you can go in there to do that as well. So back to you, Kevin.
Yeah,
there you go.
Marco, let's just talk through some Lightning pieces real quick. This is, you can jump there. There you go. This is kind of just the latest on Lightning. It's a high-level summary, and mostly I wanted to have a conversation around it because we've run into a couple instances where there's some confusion and some obfuscation in and around the Lightning name. So Lightning's here to stay, like we said. The name is being used a lot. There's continued optimization going on in every release. You know, Mark just demonstrated the calendar from any object as an example. We know we'll continue to see those in every release. The other thing that happened just this past quarter, you know, Lightning is starting to meet communities, if you will. The initial release of the Lightning customer community took place without a whole lot of fanfare. It was not highly, you know, it wasn't highly publicized, but when we send the recording, and you know, also these are available on our website, always in our resource center. You can look through if you want to read up on what Lightning customer community is. The bigger news, though, for any of the developers or anybody who's considering a community build, and for the Salesforce folks and the EnablePath folks that are on the call as well, the Winter 16 is going to bring some substantial improvements in community development tools in the form of Lightning components. So the Lightning and communities confluence is beginning to transpire. The other thing that you'll see now, and the new license structures are now all Lightning named licenses. So the new Lightning license structure and the naming convention was released on May 1st. They were all renamed Lightning, so now it's Lightning Professional, Lightning Enterprise, Lightning Performance. The inclusions at the license level have changed. So if there's folks on the phone that are not yet using Salesforce, if there's folks on the webinar that have looked at it prior but haven't had it requoted, you may want to jump in and take a look at the new license inclusions in there. Some of the folks that have had it for a while and maybe ready to make a change in license or an upgrade in license, look before you leap on the upgrade. Just know exactly what you're getting, because Salesforce did a great job. They added quite a bit of functionality at each of the levels. They added some items that made the professional license, gave it a lot more functionality in the small business world. They bolstered the enterprise license to really handle mid-market, and then the performance license, you know, obviously is just loaded up. So take a look there at the licensing if you are making any purchasing decisions near term. And then my last bullet here, there's some continued confusion in and around Lightning. So I just wanted to make a couple comments on it. First, for everyone, define your terms. You know, we throw around the term Lightning quite a bit. There's Lightning components. There's Lightning Connect, you know, just an OData connection and display. There's the Lightning UI that Mark just showed us. Now there's Lightning Communities. There's Field Service Lightning. Now there's Lightning Licenses. So when we talk Lightning, we're talking about the future of Salesforce and the future of the platform. But when we speak specifically about it in determining what we're going to study, what we're going to train on, what we're going to consider using, just define your terms. You know, make sure that we're all speaking the same language. It'll help us to help you all. We can certainly help you in understanding that. It'll help you when you go to the success community, when you pose a question in the ecosystem about Lightning to define those terms. My second bullet on that one, just for the techies out there, get out in front of this. Get out in front of Lightning components. There are things that you can do now with declarative configuration, with drag-drop configuration, that historically have taken code to do. If it's been a while since you got your admin cert, dig in and take a look at Lightning components. There's things that coders can do faster. There's things that non-technical architects, non-coders can do that they probably would not have been able to before. So I just advise you guys, get out in front of Lightning components. The Winter 16 release is going to have some great functionality to allow enhancements to almost pseudo visual force in the community space. So there's some great stuff coming. So for the techies, get out there. And then for the admins on the client side, you know, if you're considering using any of the new functionality, Lightning or otherwise, you just have a, know your use case kind of tip to tail, and make sure it fits. There's some great functionality coming out right now. We're stoked to be leveraging it. We're really driving ROI for our clients by using some of what's coming out. We just want to make sure it's a good fit. The Lightning UI specifically, as Mark mentioned, not all objects and functionalities are supported yet in the Lightning UI, and for a user that has to switch back and forth between interfaces, that can be it can be problematic. It can be problematic for an admin who's getting cases thrown at them because they believe something's wrong. A user thinks something's wrong, when in reality it's something that's just not yet supported in the UI. So know your use case. If you're going to deploy that, let us give you a hand. We're happy to do so, obviously. But just when you go into Lightning, go with great enthusiasm, but go in a calculated manner, I guess is the best advice I could give on that one. I sound like I'm preaching a little bit here, Mark. I think I'm standing on my soapbox on the Lightning thing a little bit too much. Let's go ahead and jump forward. We'll see what we got coming up. We got a couple of more events coming up. If anybody wants to join us, one of the first things we're doing, we've got a big effort going on right now. Michelle, who's our facilitator on the webinar today, has been working quite hard. We're optimizing the EnablePath website, and we're rolling out along with that a resource center, so you'll be able to find articles, not just our content, not just blogs, but articles that we believe are relevant in the ecosystem. Again, just trying to drive some added value into our partners, our prospects, our clients, our Salesforce friends, even our competitors go to our site and take a look at our stuff, which is fine. We're really approach it as a kind of all boats on the same tide, right? If the Salesforce ecosystem does well and the technology grows, all of us will benefit. We are running an employment in the Salesforce ecosystem webinar on August 24th. If anybody would like to join, just ping us. You should have our contact info from this webinar, but also you can get us at EnablePath.com or me directly at ksmith@EnablePath.com. And then we've got an EnablePath CPQ practice webinar going on September 9th. So happy to have you join any of those. As you're on our list, you'll all get those invites. Feel free to forward them around, the more the merrier. And then the last block here, just a note, our managed services group offers flexible engagement options for ongoing support for our clients, other people's clients, current clients, future clients. We're easy to use and easy to do business with, and a lot of what we do, the majority of what we do, are large-scale projects, large-scale deployments, pretty hefty optimizations. But we've got services that really will fit kind of any need, whether it's just staff augmentation for a little while, whether it's questions about Lightning. Today, whether you just need a technical architect to spend a couple hours and look through an org, you need code coverage on something, or you just need admin support. There's a bubble in the org, you got a lot of demand in the group. So we're happy to and ready to engage in our managed service group in any other way that we can. And then the other thing that's not on here, the upcoming event, and you'll hear more about it as we invite some folks, but we're certainly going to be at Dreamforce. We're looking forward to being there and learning a lot this year. And we hope to see some of you there as well. Look for some future communication on that. But we're excited for that there at the beginning of October. I think I've got a resource slide, Mark, next. Again, you guys will have access to all of this, but these are just some of the links to the items that we mentioned kind of in passing that we'll be able to you'll be able to research and take a look at after the fact. And I know we're coming up on time, probably have a time for a question or two. You can either ping Michelle directly or use the chat functionality in GoToMeeting. Michelle, you can just ping me, let me know if we've got any questions. Happy to take them if we can, or bird dog them if we can't, answer them right away.
Absolutely. Can you hear me? So we have a first question. What types of businesses fit best in SteelBrick CPQ?
That's a good one. I'm glad somebody's thinking about that, because it probably doesn't fit all. They've had a lot of success in SteelBrick. Originally had a lot of success in the SaaS model. They have had a lot of success with anybody who has a recurring revenue, business model, right, where they're billing somebody every month, every quarter, every year, whatever that is. The recurring revenue models have had a lot of success. Folks that have bundling have typically been big users of of CPQ. So, you know, if you sell an item and then additional items added on behind that, or a service and additional entitlements behind that, you know, one of the first ones I ran across, this will date me because it was a long time ago, we had to build a system prior even to Sales Cloud having been rolled out in the telecom space, where I'm ordering DSL from my house, and I'm ordering voice service, and I want long distance, and I want caller ID. And back in the day, we had to bundle all those. So anytime you're bundling or have use cases or where there's a rule set around those bundling, it's a good opportunity. We've also had success. We did a really cool deployment. We're in the process of rolling it out for a home builder for using CPQ to assemble kind of the add-ons for the house. So you bought the house, and now you want the granite and you want the upgraded windows, and they're using it for almost a real-time configuration kind of on the spot. We did another one, good manufacturing one, for a company that does portable buildings, and it was kind of the same idea. I want this additional piece, I want this additional add-on, I want this package, you know, and they were able to build the rule sets in there. So it came out of that recurring revenue model stream, and appropriate certainly there, anybody that's doing that recurring revenue billing. And then anybody that's doing a lot of bundling, probably, you know, take a look at maybe a good fit. And if it's trying to drive efficiency, you know, anybody that's got symptomatic, they're hearing it, right? It's too slow to turn my contract around. I'm waiting for my quote to be approved. I need my bid back. If that's common gripe in your instance, it may be time to look at CPQ and to see if that functionality can increase the user satisfaction and also, you know, drive faster response to the clients.
Great. Okay, Kevin, I think this is another great question for you. Is Field Service Lightning fully baked?
That's a good question for me because it's a hot potato. Is that why it's a good one for me? Certain aspects of it I saw were outstanding. The demo looks really strong. We haven't seen it deployed a whole lot yet, so I'd hesitate to say fully baked. What I do know, though, is it's got full support at Salesforce. So I know they were working to enhance some scheduled maintenance management. I know they're working to enhance and augment a parts inventory module. You know, picture I used the elevator repair example earlier, the elevator repair person, and knowing exactly what parts are on that van to increase the intelligent routing. So I'm not just going to route the technician who's closest to the client who needs assistance. I'm going to route the technician who is closest and has the right equipment and has the right training certs to work on that specific piece of equipment. So they were augmenting that inventory piece. So that's one where I think they've recognized they've got some opportunity. It's probably, I'll say it like this, I believe it's definitely edible, but if it's fully baked, is it as pristine a pastry as it's going to be? They're still baking. They're still throwing some ingredients in there. It's definitely got some excellent use cases. And again, just know your use case, look at the technology, make sure you can map your ROI points, make sure you can say this is why we're doing it in the business sense, and then go tackle it. And we're happy to help if we can.
Great. So we have some other questions here. Is contacts associated with multiple accounts, is that available on Classic as well, or just Lightning?
It's available on both, actually. So if you go into, I was just demonstrating it on the Classic interface, but if you go into the Lightning experience, it'll work a similar way, not exactly the same way, but basically it does the same thing where you can associate contacts with multiple accounts. So yes, so it does work with both.
Great. And how do you suggest handling contacts with multiple emails? Multiple contacts with email addresses, or one contact per individual with their main email?
Yeah, I would say that you never want to have multiple contacts. It depends on your use case specifically. But generally what we would do is, you know, where we need to track multiple emails for a contact, we would, you know, create a number of fields with, you know, on the contact record to capture it that way. If you're looking at a situation where you have an unknown number and it might be up to 10 or something, you may want to think about a custom object. I don't know what use case would need to do that, but you certainly could do it that way. But in general, you want to avoid duplication as much as possible. You want to have, one contact really ought to be one individual, and track it that way. When you run emails campaigns, you're going to have to think about, in general, Salesforce wants to work with a single email address to send out if for campaigns and for mailings and things like that. But certainly you can designate which email address to use for certain types of, email activities. So, but the short answer is I'd say you want to have multiple email fields on a contact record.
Great, and I think we have one more question. The contact association to multiple accounts with multiple roles, there was a comment made that it needed to be enabled. Can you define that? And is this something that clients would need to reach out to Salesforce to ask them to enable the functionality?
It's actually something that an administrator would do. It is a big change to the org to turn this on. There's a step-by-step approach you follow to make it work within your org. It's something that, as you go down, you'll see that capability on the account object within the setup area, and the configuration area. It's a flag you turn on or off. It's similar to turning on Chatter or turning off Chatter or any other functionality within Salesforce. You would turn it on, you make some screen changes, you take off, for example, the contact related list on the account and replace that with the related contact related list. It goes through your data and creates those structures. It's a pretty radical change, so it's something you want to think through about how you want to support that. So that's what I mean by that. It is a selectable item that you turn on purpose, and your admin could do that. And if you want some guidance as to whether it makes sense or not, certainly you can engage with us or Salesforce to kind of look at your org and see what the impacts would be of turning that on.
Thank you guys very much. Also, everybody that attended, hopefully it was worthwhile. We certainly appreciate the opportunity to try to provide some added value to the ecosystem and to our clients and partners out there. Look forward to hosting another session in the near future. Certainly, we got the CPQ webinar coming up, and then also the employment webinar. If you know anybody who's looking to get into the ecosystem and employment webinar, it's not just going to be recruiting for EnablePath, but we're going to go over different types of employers, different types of roles, different types of reasons for being in there. So look for those invites, and hopefully it was worthwhile. Everybody, thanks again for joining, and enjoy your day.